Sense presented by By Impuls. Today we're going to be discussing Call of Duty eSports and the fall that they've seen regarding viewership and World War II, the new Call of Duty that will be coming out this November. And I'm here with my co-host, Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, man. Just this interesting topic. I think this is going to be very, very, very interesting, and I feel like a lot of people are going to get booty hurt, and I feel like a lot of fanboys are going to disagree, but that's fine, right? I think we're going to try to be as transparent and as honest, right, as possible. So let's jump into it. Um, you know, so regarding Call of Duty esports, right, and the fall that they've seen in viewership, what's your take on that?
Ultimately, it's like, in my opinion, it comes down to a bunch of things. I
Right.
think in the last, I'd say the benchmark for me is like the last 3 years, since this new wave of kind of technology of the game, has switched to more of a the jetpacks, right? And ultimately, I think
Right.
when you look at the general consensus in the fan base of Call of Duty, it's like the majority of the people have been playing the game since MW4 or MW1, Call of Duty 4, when everything was just kind of plain old war game, And I think that now
Right.
it's kind of contributed. It's something that it's not. It's turned into something that it's not. And yeah, ultimately, I think it's been terrible for competitive and for the viewer base.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall the whole change of almost like, if you want to compare it to like League, right? The drastic change of meta and the whole idea that switching from a specific type of playing style to something very, very different, right? And I remember when this whole jetpack idea came about, right before they actually released any game that involved jetpacks or boost. A lot of people were like, "Oh no, this can actually be something great, and it can innovate and can be better, and it can make it more competitive." And I remember I would tell people, I'm like, I really don't think it's gonna work. A lot of people did comparisons to with Halo and the way that the jetpacks kind of gave that Halo-ish kind of spacey moonwalking style. And I feel that's something that I agree. I think overall the whole drastic change of almost like the overall like rawness of the game and making it something, making the game into something that it never really was or could be, was very detrimental to the whole Call of Duty franchise, and at least also for the esports side of things, right? I think even more that was more affected more of the competitive side of things, because you had these players kind of like, hey, what's going on? We're playing a specific style of Call of Duty for X amount of years, and now you bring on this new phase of playing style and these
I
new
get
like
that.
mechanics, right? If you want to call that. But yeah, I really, my opinion when I first saw it, I was like, this is terrible. That's something that I was just not feeling when they announced it, and when they overall just said that this was something that was going to make Call of Duty better.
I don't know if they necessarily said that though.
Okay, maybe they didn't say that, right, but I would say it was almost with that intention, right? That, ooh, this new phase, this new thing of a playing style was going to almost like revamp it and make it better, more entertaining, more fast paced. Because I feel like prior to that, that was a major issue with Call of Duty. Some people were very like, "Oh, the game isn't fast paced enough. Like, we have to. People just camp. People sit around." And to some extent, I get it, but at the same time, it's almost like this was, you know, such a huge leap that it kind of missed the mark on what they were trying to do, if even if they had the right intentions.
No, I
Um,
agree 100%.
yeah. Yeah, no, overall, I really thought it was pretty terrible the way they went about it, and like I said, obviously, Call of Duty esports is such a small portion of the people that buy the game compared. Obviously, at the end of the day, it is a business. Yeah, you get
One
some
percent.
one
No, one
percent.
percent.
Yeah, no, if anything, that 1%, right? But overall, I just it kind of sucks when you have a non esports oriented company that develops the game, and then you kind of have to deal with whatever they produce and whatever they put to the table, right? It's you can nag, you can tweet about it, but at the end of the day, they are a business and they're going to do whatever it takes to uh, make the money that they need to make and fulfill certain thresholds or whatever the case may be. But regarding viewership, in your opinion, what has been the major issue throughout the years that since viewership has diminished? Um, just before we go into that, just want to clarify though. Um, Call of Duty overall has always had a viewership issue, but as we compare it to other quote unquote bigger esports, they've always kind of fell short of other esports and always kind of been like at the bottom tier of esport games, right? So what's your opinion on why do you think they've kind of lost some viewership, at least for at least not for the major events, but for the most part any leagues that they have or any more or less regional events?
Well, I think it's production's a big thing. Like in League of Legends, there's like a huge meme always. It's like, oh, NA production and this, but if you compare like the Call of Duty broadcast to like League of Legends broadcast,
Yeah,
it's like not even comparable. Like the differences, like NA is so like League of Legends is just so smooth compared to Call of Duty, and it's just like the way that the league is structured this year and compared to last year's league. I thought last year
right,
they did a great job, but this year it's just like the way it's spread out over a certain amount of weekends and this whole deal, and it's just kind of a mess. And I think it's just hard to attract viewers when you have something that's it's 4 weeks out of the year and that's the entire season. Like that's just kind of the land league or whatever they called it.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's terrible.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think overall, you know, and the issue that I see a lot with viewers is with the whole league, right? I guess the whole idea is to kind of make it more entertaining, so like that, people can actually want to watch these teams battle out for placements, and when it comes to major tournaments, because essentially that's what the league is for, right? You play the league, and based on what you end up prior to an event, essentially what you go into the event with, right? And I feel like they kind of implemented the whole league system, but kind of forgot about the whole hey guys production. And overall production, in my opinion, is something that as we go on, as esports grows, production just becomes better and better, and you see that with companies, ESL. I mean, they're not they're technically like the MLG, right? But you compare those two companies alone on how they produce. I mean, yeah, the production of every event that they throw. I mean, ESL is over here, and MLG is literally up down here. And I do think
It's not even a
I've seen,
comparison.
yeah, what happened? Yeah,
It's
it's
not
not
even
it's
a
not it's not even a
comparison.
comparison, right? And however, though, I do think MLG in some regard, obviously, there's some numbers in there where that are a huge factor, because some of MLG's major events for CS:GO are huge events, right? That people literally from all around the world come to see, right? And I think overall for Call of Duty, they unfortunately there hasn't since the developers haven't came into the scene and been like, hey, we're actually going to fully help the esports side of things grow and develop. They've kind of had to always deal with what they get, and I think when you have that, right, when you have a company that comes in like MLG and tries to help out, but isn't really fully committed because of money issues, or maybe, why are we going to invest in this game that isn't going to produce X amount of dollars? The whole ratio of investment is not there, and it kind of sucks, right? Because you see in the streams that the production value is little to shit. Like it's terrible. I was telling people, the last major, was it at Texas, I believe. Yeah, I believe the
Yeah,
last Call of
Dallas.
Duty major event, Dallas. Yeah, Dallas, Texas event. I'm not quite sure if you saw it, but if you saw the production in it was terrible, dude. It was dark. Like everybody looked like for some reason, and I get it, right? Maybe the whole idea of Call of Duty being in the military, being in the battlegrounds, is kind of dark, smoky. Maybe they try to do that, but at the same time, it's nobody wants to look at somebody with the black suit with a black background. Like it's not entertaining. It's There's no like spark to it. You compare them to, like I said, ESL, Riot, CS:GO, all these major esports games that they invest. I'm not like sometimes even more money into the production alone than the actual venue that they throw the event at, right? And I feel like that's the issue, right? That we have in Call of Duty. It's not really about the people that are watching online. I feel like that's something that they don't think about and they don't really care because it's about how many tickets can we sell, and it's about, well, how many people buy the merchandise, how can we market that, and but I really feel they just missed the mark online. They don't really understand how important it is for people to actually want to watch the streams and actually feel entertained, right? What's your 2 cents on that?
Well, it's like they just don't. I don't even know how to describe it without like just bashing them completely. But like, I just want to compare like this year's league to last year's league, like beyond like the
Oh, yeah,
viewership,
no,
right? Like
yeah,
last year, I thought they did a really good job. Like I think it was Tuesday, Wednesday, each team played a match, and it's just like League of Legends, right? I mean, it would have been preferably on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday would have been
right,
nice, but every they play a match and it's just a league and it's every weekend. But it's done online, right? But that was fine. They did a good
right,
job with production. Um, with that league, even though it was online, they did a good job with having the casters in studio casting the games, and then obviously the players at their houses playing. But this year, it is done in a live setting. But since they're not Riot Games and they can't force their teams to live within a certain radius of the studio, they have to hold it in separate weekends. So last weekend, or there's like 4 different pools, I think, and each weekend, you play it out like a league. Like it's all just it's like a round robin type
right,
league, but it's just so boring because like these teams, they fly to Columbus, right, the first weekend, and they don't play for anything. They just play their pool matches. They go home for a
right,
week or for 3 weeks, and then they come back for
right,
playoffs. Like that's just like why you fly all the way out to Columbus just to play like round robin games that don't really mean it. Like they mean something, yeah, but like there's no money being earned at that weekend. So it's like
right.
the structure is just terrible. If they were going to do a LAN league, as they call it, they would have had to do it where they required the teams to live near the studios, like League of Legends does, and that's hard to do.
Right, and to add to that, right, also to the whole idea, I'm not quite sure how they have it set up as the actual like arena. Is it more like a studio and then
No, it's
nobody can
like a
go in
normal
it?
LAN. It's just like a
Normal end,
LAN.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you? I'm not quite sure. I haven't read up on it right specifically, but do you know if you can actually go spectate?
Mm-hmm.
You can. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Hopefully, it's not like the whole Halo worlds. Is it like that where it's like pretty small? It's only like
No,
couple.
it's just like a normal LAN event. It's just like a
Okay,
normal like
okay.
MLG Dallas, except
Okay.
it seems that it's not like there's no like open bracket. You know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And also too, I feel like this league kind of, it means well, right? It means like their intentions there are great and they're good, but it's like, how do you make it entertaining for somebody? They don't. I feel like that's something that they really don't even know yet. They try to. I see they try to do giveaways in some cases, or they try to really push it to where they tweet out constantly, like they put ads up and all that stuff. But there's no
Who
like,
cares?
yeah, there's yeah, like who cares about that? Nobody cares about like my thing is like how do you make it visually appealing? And I feel like that's what they're missing. It's something that they're not understanding that this is very, very important, right? And obviously you compare them to other esports like Riot, right? When they were first coming up, I mean, the first world events that they held, right? You see progress in streams and you see progress in the production value and all that stuff. But unfortunately that's something that I still don't see with Call of Duty. And I know Call of Duty has had issues with like developers, with companies that help, do the tournaments. And the whole idea that there's not somebody that's willing to fully back them up. At least the esports side of things, right? Somebody that's not fully devoted to like, hey, you know what? Let's actually help the scene because there's something there. And I really do think something is there, but I really do think it's neglected and it's kind of like half-assed because there isn't enough money short term, right? I think unfortunately, right, the business side of things, people are like, I'm here to make the money and then leave or whatever. And if it's not there, then people are not going to invest. Investors are not going to come in, And I've heard a lot of pro players complain about that, right? That's like investors don't really want to come in because, well, we play tournaments and we out of the whole year, the tournaments are maybe a handful, and then you only get a certain amount of money because the tournament pools are not as high as compared to other tournaments, right? So it's other esports, so it's less appealing for the viewer to come to this esport and be like, yeah, this is exciting, right?
Sure.
Yeah, moving forward, I want to talk about how what does this all mean for esports teams, right? And at least the Call of Duty pro teams. What do you think? I'm sure you've heard the whole remarks that Optic has always said, stated that they're undervalued, that nobody really cares about them. People kind of look at Call of Duty as this half-ass, like esport, if they even want to call it that. They look down upon them because they're not developed enough. What's your take? What do you think esports teams in Call of Duty, like, how do they feel about the whole situation?
It's just like, again, like these athletes, they're just very like, they don't like the game, right? So it's like all they're doing all year long is complaining to Activision, or in this case, what is it, Infinity Ward? Like, why the
Sledgehammer,
hell?
Infinity Ward, yeah.
Sledgehammer's next year. Infinity Ward, like, why? Like, this game sucks and all that, and I hate this, and like that just creates a bad image for the rest of the community. Like, if your competitive players are hating the game, just like, why would they want to play it all the time? And I think that's something that also contributes to the bad kind of viewership that we've been talking about, because
Right.
like why, sorry, I had to yawn. It's like,
It's
so
all right.
my favorite player Scumpy hates this game, so why should I play it?
Or why should I
Competitive
even
thing.
watch it? Yeah. And also too, yeah, I agree. It is that simple. That being said too, just the whole idea, it's like people, these pros, right? They bash on the game, but it's like, think about this, right? These pros have been in the scene for geez, probably since the beginning, if most of them, all of them, right? Also, too, a big issue, like I said, that I see, it's the whole idea that people are not excited to see Call of Duty anymore, right? There's no
No, not at
excitement,
all.
and I feel like even though these new like series or these new games that came in with jetpacks and all that were maybe mechanically were kind of annoying to watch because of the pace, and it was kind of boring because we want to see somebody flying around. Might as well go watch Halo and Boost, whatever. But going back to it, I feel like the whole idea of these players kind of top tier teams kind of being kind of held by all these pros that have been pros for a long time kind of makes it less exciting to watch, right? Something we were talking off stream is like, I feel like a lot of these teams have kind of rinse and repeat with their players. A lot of these teams kind of literally almost trade players within themselves, but that's it. It's very, very rare when you see a team pick up a no name player and put him on the roster, right? I can maybe there's a few
In
with
COD, yeah, not
some
League.
exceptions. Right, right. No, yeah, league the league brings anybody in. But in
Or play shady.
yeah, no, in Call of Duty, you see you never hear of, oh my god, the scene is so competitive, the scene is this, right? And I feel like that's something that affects them too, right? How do you expect people to be more entertained, or how do you expect people to be interested when you kind of show them the same players, the same teams every year after year after year, right? Obviously, with some exceptions, there have been teams that have come out of nowhere, that have like
Yeah,
struck the scene, and holy crap, who are they? But think about this, and this is something that I've seen, and it's a trend, and hopefully people that in chat that know about Call of Duty, ooh, disconnection. We lost Ben live. There we go. It's fine. We lost Ben. We're back. We're back. We're back. No, you're fine. You're fine. There we go. Going back to it, the whole idea that the whole idea that in the scene, right? I see this trend how even if there are teams that make it out there, right? You see, the whole issue with teams, once they make it to a certain point where they're somewhat famous, they release their players and they bring on pros that have been in the scene for a drastic amount of time. Like, what is that, right? How that's not entertaining. I don't want to see the same players over and over again. And that's something that I hate of organizations. What they do, they bring on, they get this amateur team to work their asses off, literally, make it to a level where they're placing top 8 at an event or top 10 where they get main stage exposure. And once there's a little bit of fame, all these organizations literally just drop those players and say, hey, we already got our name out there. The pros know who we are. Let's drop the amateur team that we have and let's invest that little money, or essentially money that we have, into these pros, because it's more secure. And like that, these pros are always going to stay in the scene, right? You see the stronghold of pros staying in the scene all the time.
Yep.
And I do think that's something that affects the viewership. Nobody wants to see the same teams play again. It's like it's the same players with the same players playing with each other, different name every event, and it's really dull and it's bland, and it's bland, and it really causes it to be very, very boring. There's no spark, there's no spice. It's like the same teams playing each other again. Why do I want to watch this?
All right, I think that's a good stopping point on that topic. We're going to kind of shift our focus to next year with Call of Duty.
Next year.
So we know they announced Call of Duty is going back to boots on the ground. So what is your opinion on World War II next game? And what do you think that it could do to bring more attention to the competitive side to help kind of bring back the Black Ops 2 glory days, I guess, glory days?
Ooh, okay. World War II. I saw the trailer. I was on Twitch when they announced, or they showed like the campaign or some clips of it. Essentially, what I thought of it, I honestly thought it was a very smart move. A lot of people complained, and do I really think it was specifically because of the COD community or eSports COD community? Is that the sole reason why I think this game was boots on the ground? Maybe. I don't really think so, but
no, because it was planned out way before.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think so, but maybe in somewhere it kind of came across somebody that kind of brought it up, and okay, it makes more sense, right? But that being said, I do think it's going to be a positive, right, for the scene. My thing is, as an ex Call of Duty player and fanatic, the whole idea of honeymoon phases. The whole idea that once this new Call of Duty comes out, people love it for half a year. The second half of the year, people hate it, right? For whatever reason, and people are finally going to get boots on the ground. That's what they want, right? And I think, as sad as this sounds, people are going to bitch about it and are going to talk crap because of game modes. Right? And that's the point, right? Unfortunately, the COD community has these crazy drastic standards that are literally up here that are never fulfilled or met, right? And aren't realistic. So I feel like it'll revive the scene, right? I think it'll bring back a lot of the OGs, a lot of older players that kind of left the scene because of the whole boost, or because of the whole, I guess, the whole new meta of Call of Duty kind of being kind of iffy and being more Halo stylish, being more like, just, I guess, overall more childish, as I like to call it. But I do think this new World War II Call of Duty will bring a lot of the original people that started in Call of Duty, and that really kind of, like all the mohos, right? All the mohos are essentially going to come back. And I'm not lie, watching Fear play was so exciting. Regardless of what like they were playing, they were like that team, right? That kryptonite team that everybody had. But I do feel it's going to be a positive. My thing is, what game modes do they bring on is going to be a crucial point, because obviously the time it's dated in, right? It's kind of difficult to kind of put these new game types in it, because it's going to be kind of awkward and weird. So in my opinion, I think it's going to go down to what game types they put into the to the competitive side of things, and how we can, they can make sure that they're actually fun to watch, right? Hardpoint needs to come back. That's the only thing I'm going to say. If Hardpoint is not back, that's it. I'm lost for words because Hardpoint is what made Black Ops 2 the best game. In my opinion, Black Ops 2 is the best game hands down, competitive wise. It's so exciting watching it, sweat, blood, and tears. I wasn't even a player, right, and on stage, but I would watch them and I would sweat. I would literally shake, right, watching the streams because it was so exciting. And also too, I guess the interface, right? How do they set up the interface for the viewers? Is going to be really big to make sure that it's actually a great interface and it's not, in this past Call of Duty, the whole interface looks weird. There's like a huge map in the corner that kind of blocks, and I'm like, I don't really want to see that. Nobody cares. But I feel overall, I think it's going to go down to the game modes and how the production of the game goes about.
I have this like the way that I'm gonna describe it is kind of like for the game mode. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
That saying. Like, oh, let's bitch that that there's no boots on the ground, but like we love uplink. Like you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I agree.
So like, I mean, do they? We were talking about this also off stream. Like, do they do something where they have like a sort of like bring an objective to a certain point that's different from CTF in the sense that you don't have a gun, like a I don't know, like capture the flag type thing, except it's like
do they revamp? Yeah.
Because they will probably have capture the flag. They will have probably have hardpoint. Obviously, they'll have search and destroy. But if they have domination again, that'll ruin it.
Yeah, and I was never.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it back in the Modern Warfare 3 days. Domination was boring. It was legit boring because, I mean, obviously that game within itself had some map issues. The whole idea that you could just spawn trap easily was kind of boring. Nobody wanted this optic going overseas, spawn trapping these unfortunate European teams getting shit on. It wasn't fun, and I think overall, domination is just that game's out the window. A game type is out the window.
For pubs.
Yeah, it's definitely fun for the average casual gamer, but overall, if it's competitive, if they were to implement it, right, I think they need to make sure that there's like a twist to it, right? Same thing with CTF, right? If they're going to implement it, kind of add a twist, add it to where you can't have a gun, add it to where, maybe there's a timer to where you have to get it from one side of the map to your side of the map, or something different, innovate, right? Add something where it's like it's crucial that you get a specific pull, right? And obviously they have a timer, right? So to when the map ends or whatever, but do it to where it's more exciting, where there's more to it when a specific play doesn't go right that can cost you the game and yeah. He has an idea. Let's get it. Let's hear it.
What if when you had the flag, the time stops?
Okay.
So then, you have the flag. Say you need a pull to tie the game. They're up by 1, and you have to go all in to protect him from dying. Because if he dies right when he dies, and the flag's like either in base or on the ground, it's over, or like time runs. So if you have the flag and you coordinate like a nice 4-man push, you can tie the game regardless of time.
Or maybe like when somebody is down, maybe a cap or two, right? Do it to where the last couple of minutes are like the timer like stops, right?
No, or just with when people just have the flag, the time stops. That's easy.
Or that, yeah, I agree. Either or, like I think, yeah, like I said, something to kind of revive it, right? To make it more interesting, because I feel like that's what it needs. Like I said, unfortunately, that's the thing, right? You have to always consider that this is the developers, even if they're trying to help the scene or kind of trying to like sway that way. At the end of the day, the game is strictly for average people, right?
Yep.
The game isn't a competitive game, right? In a sense, it is, right? Because it's multiplayer and all that stuff. But the game isn't structured around esports morals, and all that, right?
Yep.
But besides that, I think overall they need to revamp some of the game types, and if they do, I think also maps are going to be very, very crucial. And
we don't know anything about that yet.
We don't know anything about that, but at the end of the day, a lot of the Black Ops 2 maps were the whole 3 lanes, and making sure that the maps were as symmetrical as possible. So like that, there's always going to be weak sides and strong sides. But I think overall they need to make sure they really, really capture the whole idea of innovation and they actually try to help if the least.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, with that, we want to transition to some questions in our chat. If anybody has any questions regarding what we just spoke about, or you guys, have any questions for us, or want to discuss a specific topic in Call of Duty esports, or in Call of Duty in general, right? Any questions? We'll take those right now.
While we wait for those,
Yeah,
you just want to talk about
I love Call of Duty. I miss it.
what do you think? Are you gonna get the game? Are you gonna get the new game?
So this is difficult. I actually, if I was to get it, I would have to buy a new Xbox, or I'm an Xbox guy. All right, hands down, I'm an
I'm a
Xbox
big
guy. I'm not a big fan of the whole PlayStation controller. I've hated it since the day I've ever laid my hands on it. It's ugly. It looks weird. I don't like it. The Call of Duty controller just fits in your hand. I mean, the Xbox controller fits in your hand, nice and neatly. It's nice and tight, and that's essentially what I would say. It depends, but most likely, if the game is this great, I would potentially invest in an Xbox and buy it myself. If not, just buy it for my 360, which I have at home, and I can, just kind of dust off. And for the most part, it should be pretty good. See, we have a question. Okay, do you want to take this one, Ben?
Yeah. Do you think it's possible for COD to come back into the pro scene? And if so, what do they have to do differently in terms of advertising or sponsoring? Um, I think David Vonderhaar, who is the senior developer with Treyarch, he very pushed the competitive side, and that's why you saw the spectator mode and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah,
That
there
was
wasn't
really
one
prominent
prior, yeah.
in Black Ops 3 now. So Infinite Warfare, I don't even know who the lead is, but for Sledgehammer, I know it's Michael Condrey. So I
Right.
don't think he's very favors the competitive side, but we'll see if it's a good question because I think not only is the whole league play thing prevalent, where people
Right.
grinding out the competitive game mode, arena, ranked play, league play, whatever. That's crucial, as well as just the spectator mode. I think if they can
Mhm.
push those things in the new game, then they're set up for some really good success.
Yeah, I want to touch up on the advertising and sponsoring. I'm not lie. I really do think if Call of Duty wants to become a big esport, like respectable, like League of Legends, CS:GO, the developers need to get behind it. Without the developers' help, there nothing is ever going to be strictly done right. It's almost going to be a game that's kind of like always in the middle. It can be professional. It can be considered a professional esport, but at the same time, it's not because it's a casual game, right? So I think overall, um, the developers need to kind of immerse themselves in it, right? I truly do believe there's a lot of money in esports, and I do feel that it's a growing scene, and I do feel that it's just a matter of time until they fully commit and cash in um, into the scene and really kind of devote a lot more time. Obviously, you've seen it a little by little. They've kind of tried, but they're just kind of, they're kind of still trying to feel out, get their feet wet. But I think it's going to be very important that there's a developer support. Just one more add on to that, sponsors. I'm gonna say in order to bring more sponsors into the scene to help it grow, there has to be more events. There has to be more teams. There has to be more complexity with who's on the team. There can't be this just stronghold of selective players and organizations that control it, because that doesn't make it interesting. And in some regard, right? Maybe for investors, it can be beneficial, but at the same time, the whole idea that these teams kind of pick up players and then drop them every event, will kind of make those investors kind of push away. So overall, I think making sure that there's diversity in the teams and make sure there's more of a level of professionalism, and I feel like that's what investors enjoy, right? The whole idea that you're a professional in your scene, and that they can truly see that you're not just fucking around, right? And I think that's why these investors and sponsors go into bigger esports, because they understand the level of seriousness and professionalism that it takes, and even they're struggling with getting sponsors into the scene.
Okay, we got one more question before we wrap up the show here. In your opinion, what company that has created the past COD games, what's the best in expanding the community? I'm gonna go out and say that you're talking about the competitive community. I think I just
Yeah,
touched on this.
yeah,
David Vonderhaar and the guys at Treyarch. I think
Treyarch. Yeah,
just with their support of the CWL last season, Vonderhaar being at the finals and holding up the trophy, and the spectator mode and all that, his relationship with Nadeshot and the pioneers of competitive. I think that Treyarch has done the best job, and I wish there'd be a Treyarch game every year, but it's not realistic.
yeah. Just to add on to Ben's answer, I agree too. Treyarch and Vonderhaar have been the pioneers, right? I do think without Vonderhaar there wouldn't be a scene, and if there would be, it would still be held at local hotel venues, if anything, not arenas or major, big complexes, right? It would be still very small and tight, and just kind of there. To add on to that, I do think the growth was really big in Black Ops 2, as you saw all these YouTubers that were content creators in Call of Duty, professionals, team owners, go to the Treyarch studios and actually help develop the game. Nadeshot, he made a couple of videos about it. If you guys, if I can find them, I'll link them down below if you're watching this on YouTube. But essentially, he would vlog, right, when he'd be like, "Hey guys, I can't disclose any information, but I'm really working closely with Treyarch and Vonderhaar, trying to really push this whole Call of Duty esports side of things to this game." And obviously, you saw what they did, right? The game was amazing.
Well, yeah,
The game
of
was
course.
literally the best. I mean, obviously, I remember like it was yesterday. Farico Impact versus Envious in the final. Like there, what? I'm sorry, but there's probably never going to be a better game than that one. In esports, the side when it comes to the esports side of things, obviously, unless it's kind of revamped or kind of they kind of make a new version of it, maybe Black Ops 4. I don't know.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, but stuff like that, right? I think overall Treyarch and Vonderhaar have been a major contributor to the growth in the whole esports scene or the esports side of Call of Duty. However, I do think that they can do more, but I do think that just the uncertainty of where this is going to end up kind of freaks them out, and I don't blame them. But I do think they can do more than what they've done, and they can do it better too.
Yep, no doubt. I think with that, I think that's all we really have to kind of talk about with Call of Duty. We're
Call of
both
Duty.
League of Legends guys, but we're trying our best here. We both come from COD, so
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully once we want to do another one of these when the new Call of Duty
the
comes
game is
out.
out.
Yeah, when the new game's out
Or
and
the multiplayer release. We'll do the first show after the whole announcement live stream thing. We'll talk about it because that's when
and,
we'll know maps, guns, we'll know game modes, all that stuff,
and hopefully
and
we're
we'll
not
also have
crying.
some gameplay.
Hopefully if we're crying or if we don't make the episode, it's most likely because the game's gonna suck. No, no. No. Yeah, but with that, I mean, yeah, I think that would be a great, on a great note to end it. Thank you everybody for watching, and honestly, I really appreciate it. This is something that we've kind of enjoy, and we want to make sure that people in the chat are actually willing to ask questions, and actually, get into the conversation. This is a very important thing. I feel like more people need to be involved in conversating and giving opinions and thoughts on topics like these. But with that said, I think we're gonna check out everybody. Thank you guys for watching.
Next week will be Counter Strike and Overwatch. We'll see you guys then.
All right, later, guys. Peace
Peace.
out.